Say tricks.
Our super will be Gathering Storm, the big boss damage. Since we will be using a glaive most of the time, I decided not to incorporate the coveted dodge melee loop. Instead, we will use Marksman's Dodge to have a quick way to reload our glaive when we are in a pinch. Then, instead of Combination Blow, we will use Disorienting Blow so that our non-glaive melee will blind enemies, but also be an easy source of Amplified. I went with the Pulse Grenade to further boost boss damage, but Flashbang is a great alternative to pair with the blinding side of the build. On that note, Spark of Resistance will give 25% damage resistance while we are surrounded by 3 or more enemies within 15 meters. This is great for in-game content, but a bit overkill everywhere else. The Jolt and Arc explosions from our glaive wipes out enemies so fast that they don't end up being much of a threat to us anyways. In all of the footage, I am running Spark of Resistance, but in my current loadout, I have swapped this out for Spark of Shock to give our arc grenades the ability to apply Jolt. Spark of Ions will create an ionic trace whenever we kill jolted enemies. Each ionic trace will grant us 12.5% grenade and melee energy and 15% class ability energy. While we are amplified, Spark of Beacons will cause our glaive projectile kills to release a blinding explosion, making for easy cleanup and aiding our survivability. Spark of Haste boosts our mobility, resilience, and recovery by 20 points each while we are sprinting. The effect begins after sprinting for 1.25 seconds and ceases when we slow down. This is chosen mainly for the boost to mobility so that we can get our dodge back quickly between engagements. We are going to be empowering our glaive with the exotic claw Triton Vice. With Triton Vice, our glaive melee kills will overflow 1 ammo to the magazine, up to 100% increased magazine capacity. In our case, with Edge of Concurrence, that means we can have up to 12 rounds in the magazine. While we are surrounded by 3 or more enemies, Triton Vice boosts our reload speed by 50 points, and our glaive melee damage is doubled. Finally, since we will be running an arc glaive to match our subclass, Triton Vice will cause our glaive projectile kills to explode with arc energy that deals 350 damage to enemies within 4 meters. Our arc glaive of choice is the Edge of Concurrence. By default, projectile hits grant 25% weapon energy charge. We are going to be using the Lucent Blades armor mod to bring this up to 32.5%. This, combined with the recent update to glaives where they now passively gain 1% weapon energy per second, will enable us to fully charge our glaives with 3 hits instead of 4. Once the weapon is charged, hold reload to load a Lightning Seeker round. The Lightning Seeker will chase after the closest enemy within 32 meters. Upon hitting the target, it will deal 1,440 damage. Apply Jolt to the target, and then release Chain Lightning to damage up to 4 enemies within 10 meters. The Chain Lightning will deal 65 damage to each enemy, but will also trigger Jolt to release its own burst of Chain Lightning, which will deal 132 damage to all enemies within 8 meters. And if your projectile kills the target it hit, then all of this happens alongside the arc explosion provided by Triton Vice. This combo is brutal in every situation I put it to the test. I am not great with the glaive in PvP, but managing to get Edge of Concurrence charged up and then wiping groups of guardians with the charge shot is just so damn rewarding. It is also great for when an enemy goes behind cover or tries to run away. You can just shoot the projectile on the ground and it will hunt them down with extreme prejudice. That said, most of the time you should try to get a direct hit with the charged shot because it will count towards charging up your next Lightning Seeker. For legendary weapons, I ran a Warden's Law with Rampage and Moving Target, and the new ritual weapon Chivalric Fire set to use destabilizing rounds and Repulsor Brace. I love this new sword and I used it to give some added survivability and take further advantage of the Lucent Blade's armor mods. However, for in-game bosses, it isn't the greatest option. For those boss phases, swap it out with your favorite high damage arc weapon. I went with a Storm Chaser with Vorpal weapon and Rapid Hit. If you are going to swap to something like Thunderlord, then don't get rid of your glaive entirely, swap it for an Arc Legendary glaive instead. In these situations, I ran the new Albedo Wings glaive with Beacon Rounds and Demolitionist. If you weren't able to get a nice roll during the Dawning, then a Nezarac's Whisper with Vorpal weapon and Impulse Amplifier is also a great choice. Our armor stat priority is resilience, discipline, and then recovery. We don't need high mobility with this build because when we are amplified, our mobility is boosted by 50 points, and Spark of Haste will give us 20 more points while we are sprinting. That puts us at 100 points of mobility while sprinting if you meet the baseline of 30 mobility. On our helmet, we are running 2 harmonic siphons so that our orbs give us 3.25% super energy instead of 2.5%, and 1 special ammo finder to keep our glaive loaded. Our arms will have 1 focusing strike and 1 impact induction so that dealing damage with our powered melees will grant 12% energy to our class ability and grenade energy respectively. Then we have 1 optional Font of Vigor for 30 points to strength when we have armor charge. Our chest piece will have 2 Lucent Blades to boost our energy charge rate on our glaives by 30%. This brings the total charge rate up to 32.5% for each projectile hit. This is very important for the build. It will let you deal out more charged shots and therefore more damage while also helping conserve ammo. Then we have 1 harmonic reserves to give our glaive a larger pool of ammo. Our legs will have 1 recuperation for 70 HP from each orb, 1 Orbs of Restoration for 10% ability energy to whichever is lowest, and 1 Arc Surge to further improve our glaive. Our class item will have 1 Bomber so our dodges grant 12% grenade energy, 1 Distribution so that when we dodge while near enemies we get an additional 4% to our grenade, but also 4% to our melee and class ability, and 2% to our super, and 1 Powerful Attraction so that our dodge grabs all orbs of power within 12.5 meters. When entering combat, if you have a Lightning Seeker ready, hit the strongest enemy with it. This will likely wipe out the target and all nearby enemies because of the Jolt and Arc Explosion from our Edge of Concurrence Triton Vice combo. If the Lightning Seeker doesn't kill the target, then start charging up your next Seeker by hitting them with normal projectiles. This will trigger Jolt and continue to wipe out everything around the enemy. If necessary, hit it again with another Lightning Seeker. Repeat this process until it is dead. If you don't have a Lightning Seeker, target a weak enemy with a regular projectile. This will kill it and everything within 4 meters via the Arc Explosion from Triton Vice. Find another group of weaklings and fire away until they are all dead, or you have charged up a Lightning Seeker round, in which case follow the previous set of instructions. For boss phases, always start off by throwing your super on the boss for its passive damage. If it is a short damage phase, then also throw your pulse grenade. If it is a long damage phase and you are using Spark of Shock instead of Spark of Resistance, then delay throwing your pulse grenade until your super runs out. This is so you can increase the uptime of Jolt for the duration of the damage phase. Then use your heavy weapon of choice. If it runs out of ammo, then switch to your glaive and charge up a Lightning Seeker round and then fire it. Repeat until the damage phase is over. Thanks for watching. Have a good one, y'all.